In poker, there's one format where you can't hide. No other players, no distractions, no easy spots. Just you and one opponent. Heads up. And in this format, everything is exposed. Every mistake, every weakness, every decision. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to wait. You either win or you get crushed. That's why most players avoid it. Even great players, they pick safer games. They look for edges. They choose spots where they can control the risk. Because in heads up, there is no safety. But one player did the exact opposite. Instead of avoiding the toughest games, he went straight into them against the best players in the world, over and over again. No hesitation, no fear, no backing down. And what made it even stranger was how he played. Constant pressure, relentless aggression. Every hand, a decision. Every street, uncomfortable. It didn't matter who he was playing. It didn't matter how big the stakes were. He kept pushing, he kept attacking. He never slowed down. And slowly, something started to happen. The best players in the world started turning him down, not because they didn't respect him, but because they did. Because in heads-up poker, you can only play someone if you believe you have an edge, and against him, that edge didn't seem to exist. His name is Wiktor Malinowski, better known as Limitless. And this is the story of the most fearless heads-up player. Wiktor Malinowski didn't become known through headlines. There was no big moment, no sudden breakthrough, no spotlight, just a name, appearing in high-stakes games online, Limitless. At first, he was just another regular, another player sitting in games where the competition was already elite. But very quickly, something started to stand out. He wasn't avoiding the best players. He was looking for them. While most players were choosing safer spots, he was doing the opposite, challenging stronger opponents, sitting in tougher games, taking risks most players wouldn't take, and that alone was unusual. But then came the real surprise. He wasn't just competing, he was holding his own against players who had already proven themselves at the highest level, players with years of experience, players who understood the game deeply. And somehow, he wasn't backing down. Session after session, he kept showing up, kept playing, kept pushing. And slowly, people started paying attention, because in high-stakes poker, you don't get to stay unknown for long. If you keep showing up and you don't lose, people start asking questions. Who is this guy? Why is he playing these games? And more importantly, why isn't he afraid? Because in heads-up poker, fear is what keeps most players out. But for Limitless, that fear just didn't seem to exist. To understand why this mattered, you need to understand heads-up poker, because this isn't normal poker. There are no other players at the table, no distractions, no easy spots to wait for. It's just you and one opponent. Every hand is played, every decision matters, every mistake is exposed immediately. There's nowhere to hide. In a full table game, you can sit back, you can wait, you can avoid tough situations. But in heads up, that's not an option. You are involved in almost every hand, constant decisions, constant pressure. And over time, that pressure builds, because it's not just about playing well, it's about playing well over and over again without breaking. That's what makes heads up the hardest format in poker. There are no weak players to target, no easy money to rely on. If you sit down, you're playing someone who knows exactly what they're doing. And if they're better than you will feel it. Slowly, painfully, hand after hand. That's why most professionals avoid heads up. Not because they can't play it, but because the risk is too high. The edges are small, the swings are massive, and the pressure never stops. One mistake can cost thousands. A bad session can cost everything. And over time, even the best players start to feel it. Fatigue, frustration, doubt. Because when it's just you and one opponent, there's no one else to blame, no one else to hide behind, just your decisions and the consequences. And that's exactly the environment where Limitless chose to play. So what actually made him so difficult to play against? Why did players hesitate when his name appeared at the table? It wasn't just that he was playing heads up, it was how he played. From the very first hand, there was pressure, no waiting, no slowing down, no easy decisions. Every pot felt contested, every action forced a response. He didn't give you time to settle in, didn't let you find a rhythm, didn't allow you to play comfortably. He was constantly pushing, betting, raising, re-raising, turning simple situations into difficult ones. And over time, that starts to wear you down. Because in poker, you're not just making decisions, you're managing energy, focus, emotion. And against Limitless, you never get a break. Every hand demands attention. Every spot feels close. Every decision feels important. And that creates a very specific kind of pressure. Not chaos, not randomness, but controlled aggression. He wasn't just playing fast. He was playing deliberately, choosing spots, applying pressure exactly where it mattered. Sometimes it looked reckless. Huge bets, uncomfortable lines, decisions that didn't make sense at first. But over time, patterns started to appear. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't gambling. He was forcing mistakes, putting opponents in positions where they had to choose under pressure. And eventually, everyone makes the wrong decision. That's the edge, not waiting for mistakes, but creating them. And that's what made him so dangerous. Because against most players, you can slow the game down. You can control the pace. You can find stability. But against Limitless, that option didn't exist. You were always playing his game, at his speed, under his pressure. And over time, that's how he took control. At some point, theory stops mattering, reputation stops mattering. And it comes down to one thing: who's willing to sit down and play. Because in heads-up poker, you don't get action unless both players agree. And when the stakes are high, that decision isn't taken lightly. You're not just risking money, you're risking your edge, your confidence, your reputation. And that's why most players are selective. They choose their opponents carefully. They avoid unnecessary battles. They protect themselves. But Limitless didn't follow that pattern. He challenged the best players in the world, again and again and again. Players who had already proven themselves, players known for their skill, players who didn't lose easily. Names like Linus Loliger, some of the strongest heads-up players in the world. And these weren't short sessions. These were long battles, hours, days, sometimes longer, massive pots, huge swings, momentum shifting constantly. One moment you're up, the next, you're down. And through all of it, the pressure never stops. Because in heads up, you can't step away from the opponent. You're locked in. Every decision connected to the last, every mistake amplified. And that's where Limitless stood out. He didn't slow down, didn't become passive, didn't try to survive. He kept pushing, even when the stakes were high, even when the swings were brutal, even when the opponent was elite. And that's what made these battles so intense, because it wasn't just about skill, it was about endurance, confidence, willingness to stay in the fight. And not everyone was willing to do that, because the longer you play, the more mistakes you make, the more pressure builds, the more uncomfortable it becomes. And against someone like Limitless, that discomfort is constant, which is why, over time, fewer players were willing to take those matches. At the highest level, poker isn't just about cards, it's about pressure, mental pressure, the kind that builds slowly over time. Because in heads up, you don't get a break. There's no moment to reset, no time to step back and recover. Every hand pulls you back in. Every decision demands focus. And after a while, that starts to wear you down, not physically, but mentally. You start second guessing. You start questioning your decisions. You start wondering if you're being outplayed. And that's where things begin to slip. Because once doubt enters your game, everything changes. Your decisions become slower. Your confidence starts to fade. And suddenly, spots that were clear become difficult. And against someone like Limitless, that's exactly what happens. Because he doesn't stop. He doesn't ease off. He doesn't give you time to recover. He keeps applying pressure, hand after hand, decision after decision, until eventually something breaks, and it doesn't have to be a big mistake. In heads-up poker, small errors are enough. A slightly wrong call, a small misread, a moment of hesitation, and over time, those mistakes add up, quietly, almost invisibly, until you realize you're losing. Not in one big moment, but slowly, piece by piece. And that's what makes it so difficult, because it doesn't feel like you're being crushed. It feels like you're being pulled apart, one decision at a time. And that's the real battle. Not just playing the cards, but staying mentally strong long enough to survive the pressure. And against Limitless, very few players could do that. To really understand Limitless, you have to look at when he came up, because poker was changing. The game was evolving, and a new generation of players was starting to take over. Players who didn't learn the game through experience alone, but through study, through data, through solvers. Instead of guessing, they calculated. Instead of relying on instinct, they built strategies, structured, balanced, precise. And Limitless was part of that generation. But even within that group, something stood out. Because having the knowledge is one thing. Applying it under pressure is something else entirely. Many players understood the theory. Many studied the game deeply. But very few were willing to take that knowledge and test it in the toughest possible environment. Heads up, against elite opponents, with real money on the line. That's where Limitless separated himself. He didn't just study the game, he put himself in situations where everything was on the line over and over again, and that takes a different kind of mindset, because theory is safe, study is controlled, but real games are not. There's pressure, there's risk, there's uncertainty, and even the best strategies can fall apart if you can't handle that. But Limitless didn't pull back, he didn't stay in the lab. He took that knowledge and brought it into battle. And in doing so, he became part of a new kind of player, not just skilled, but built for the modern game. But no matter how good you are, Poker doesn't reward you in a straight line, because at the highest level, variance is unavoidable. Even when you're making the right decisions, you can still lose. And in heads-up poker, those swings are even more extreme, because every pot is bigger, every decision carries more weight, and every mistake is amplified. One session can change everything. One bad run can erase weeks of progress. At the highest level, poker doesn't reward you in a straight line. Even when you play well, you can still lose. And in heads up, those swings are brutal. Every mistake is amplified. That's where most players struggle. They slow down, they become cautious. But Limitless didn't. He kept playing the same way, still aggressive, still applying pressure. Because fearlessness isn't about always winning, it's about continuing when things go against you. So why didn't pros want to play him? Not because he was unbeatable, but because the risk didn't make sense. Huge pressure, tiny edge. Over time, that's a losing game. So they avoided him. And slowly, his reputation grew as one of the toughest opponents in poker.